Yes.
Okay, call the meeting to order. Present, Bill McGowan, Wayne Sawchuk, John Beck, Dan Coughlin, Rod Hoffman, and Lisa McGonigal. And if we were to look at our next meeting, it's going to be on, sorry, and Dan Coughlin is here. Our next meeting is going to be on, it could be on Election Day.
Not a good idea.
No? We may not get any people watching, which would be fine, but do you want to do it the week after or say Wednesday or Thursday of that week? It doesn't matter to me.
Wednesday or Thursday.
Thursday is probably better for me. Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we do it on the
Thursday?
Thursday the 5th? Okay?
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, I think while we have Rod and everybody here, we might as well look at grinder pumps and see where we are and what we need to do. And it sounds like, Rod, from your letter that we're pretty far along.
Yes, after the meeting, I contacted Chris Senior and asked what he needed to schedule something for the select board. And he asked for, a commission vote and a description and a request for action. And so I have drafted and, Dan's reviewed it and then circulated a draft memo from the commission to the select board describing what we're doing and giving them a very specific language for a vote that would authorize this and then delegate to the commission all the details. And I believe that's been distributed.
Yes.
So whatever changes need to be made to that, fine, and then pass it on to Chris. I've got to speak with him this morning on something else, and I'll mention that to him.
So do we take a formal vote right now? Is that what we would do to approve this and then make a submission to the town manager?
That's what yes. That's
May I ask a couple of questions
sure.
before we vote? One, how much money are we going to need to spend to meet our obligations regarding town-owned grinder pump replacements? And two, where is that money going to come from? I've read Dan's recent email. Sounds like we may have a significant exposure in that respect.
Yeah.
Which keeps changing every week, by the way, or every other week.
Where are we now with where are we with the ones that have to be replaced, and was it like $5,000 each pump, basically? Something to that effect?
Yeah.
I thought it
I had 3 on the previous list. And out of those 3, 5 Lily Pond probably will not convert. So that brings it down to 2. And then from the new list, I had, not new list, but from the ones that weren't on Rosanna Davis's previous list, I had 3 additional, but I think Dan had more.
Yeah, most likely it's probably going to be 6, but there are still a couple of questions. Those are the
Yes.
ones I put in brown that we still need to take a look at.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But most likely it's going to be in the range of about 6.
Well, what I read in your latest email, Dan, was as many as 20.
Well, we have.
Just read it when you say maybe 14.
Yeah, I mean, we have a bunch of verifications. I think they'll probably pan out to be okay. It's just, we should verify it, make sure. Some of them have information on the pump installs, but we're not verified that the pumps were installed. But a bunch of these are making sure we're looking at the right properties and, you know,
When are we going to get a final list? I mean, I've been asking this question for a couple of years now, and we still don't have one. And I'm not prepared to vote to do anything until we have a list and know what we're doing and how much it's going to cost and where the money's going to come from. This uncertainty, what do we do? Vote yes on uncertainty? I don't like that.
No, but what do we need to, I mean, what do we need to get verification of what the final number is?
yeah, there's basically 8 locations that still need to be verified, in my opinion.
Okay,
And basically those will define whether or not they have been upgraded, what condition they're in. And, you know, there are a couple of areas that, you know, like Black Horse Lane, where it's not clear from the files what transpired, but the evidence seems to indicate that the town gave those users out there grinder pumps for installation. So you consider it then that they're town grinder pumps because the town paid for those and gave those to those people? And I would say yes. So, and they have been paying, most of them have been paying fees too. But I take that back, not a blacklist. They haven't been paying fees, but they were still upgraded. You know,
Any
so
idea how that happened?
I wouldn't, no.
Any idea when it happened?
Well, I mean, I can put together a scenario of why it happened, maybe. You know,
And I can tell you when.
you know, we have the betterment list. And for the most part, if the betterment list shows that a pump's been installed on the property, it should be on the list. But there are some people who didn't get to that list from the betterments. So we have a group of those people who, for some reason, never transferred from the betterment list to this grinder pump list. And then we have basically these fringe people who got pumps after the fact, who connected after the fact, that weren't necessarily on a betterment list, that were just missed. And, you know, it's a combination of different misses, I think, when the list was put together. So, I mean, how it got there, you know, is probably just not thorough enough to go through everything, or how they did not get there. In terms of where we are right now, you know, it looks like the grinder pump fees were added incrementally over time. And again, if they're not on the list, they're not going to get a fee. And then there's some people who, you know, like have one pump and only got charged for one fee. But there's some people who have 2 pumps and only got charged for 1 fee.
Did we confirm that all 8 of your suspects are being billed for sewer, and that those 8, any of those that have not been charged the extra fee? Has that been checked first? Because that's sort of an administrative.
Yeah, it's all in that list I sent. I mean, there's every combination under the sun. But if you look at that list I sent out, basically I've color coded them. So everything in green, I believe, needs to be upgraded. Everything in brown basically still needs to be investigated. It's we still don't have a response back on those. The yellow ones, Lisa was able to find that there's enough information in there that they were released from the grinder pump program. And then, you know, I have my own questions on whether or not sewer use is being charged properly for a couple of people.
Okay, so that sounds like a big.
They're all color coded in there. And what's not color coded in red is basically a combination of different things where people would not charge fees, or you know, when they were supposed to be, and people who were charged fees when they weren't supposed to be.
Now, how does that relate to the people that we took easements from versus people that we might not have taken an easement from?
And there's a combination there as well. You know, for the most part, everyone who's been determined as a town grinder pump has an easement taken, but yeah, I think it's kind of sketchy over on the Black Horse Lane area. if all the easements were obtained in that area.
Okay, so because we want to make sure that if we're asking that we're going to give up an easement, that it's for the right, you know, that in fact an easement exists and et cetera, et cetera. So because we don't want to have people call up and say, what's this all about? I don't understand this. I didn't know that the,
Yeah, to be honest, if you're looking for a release on each property, and I think that was the opinion of the commission
right?
last time around, you're gonna have to look at each property to make sure, to see what's been recorded on their deed.
Who's going to do that?
Whoever you want.
So I've been working on some of this.
That's not the answer. I want to know who's going to do it.
Well, I think it would be I mean, my own thought on it is, you know, when Lisa has time to do it, but also maybe engage Woodard and Curran to go out when they're doing their typical stuff. But
So I did, you know, I did go out with Scott. I had sent you guys the list. From your sheet, Dan, just for instance, 2 Stoneley, you said they may have looked at Stoneley Road. Confirm again. I checked that with Scott. And that's on my list there, 2 Stoneley.
Yeah, but is it Stoneley Lane or is it Stoneley Road? There are actually 2 properties. Stoneley Road was actually connected after the fact and would have had a new E1. Stoneley Lane would have been one of the original Interons. And that's the one I haven't seen.
So he said the one that we went to, 2 Stoneley, he said it was an original, and said it was an original E1. So, okay, so I'll check that again with him.
Yeah, they're 2 different buildings, 2 different locations.
Okay,
Yeah.
I did, and I didn't know that. I figured he would know Stoneley, so I was following Scott around because he knows the area better than I do. And then 819 Jerusalem Road, which is the Greek Orthodox Church.
Mhm.
So there was no fee being charged because they were never connected. So they got the Interon pumps before and they never connected. One of the, 811.
You indicated 811 was upgraded?
Upgraded, and they did that themselves. They paid for it themselves. And 819 will be the same deal. They'll pay for the pump themselves. So we can take that out of the orange. The building's not there yet. It's still just a
Right.
foundation.
Foundation.
so I have a question about the 14 that are not being charged and who have town. Are we going to charge them, or I don't think we have the right to go back and charge them for years past if they've had it for a long period of time. How does that work financially with us?
I mean, at this point, you're basically going to be terminating the fee anyways, so.
Right, but we haven't charged them anything over the course of however long they've had that pump, right?
Right.
Rod, your document says that somebody, namely the Sewer Commission, is going to attend to removing the easement, and which I presume also includes getting it off people's records at the registrar's office?
Yeah, we would record a release of the easement. Lisa has sent scanned copies of, I think it's like about 100 easements that have been recorded, so we know for a fact that they are on record. But for the other ones, one of my legal assistant can just run the addresses and identify to confirm, 15 Main Street has an easement, and we have a document that releases the easement at 15 Main Street.
Is there a filing fee for that?
Yes,
How much?
I don't know.
Anybody know?
No, I don't. And we're going to have to pay for that. Is that correct,
Somebody does.
Rod?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
Yes.
I'll double check that.
My recollection, it wasn't too significant. It was a couple of bucks a page or something like that.
How much?
Maybe $2 a page or something like that. And these are all going to be single releases.
Yeah,
Small amount.
one page document form.
Well, going back to who's going to verify the remaining pumps, I think as everyone knows, I'm going to go and do a session at 11 o'clock with 2 of the select board. And I think Brian's going to be, I know Rob is going to be there. So Lisa, I'll ask Rob to liaise with you to get this done as soon as possible, hopefully before the next meeting, so we can verify everything that we've had or don't have, and then we can get a final number, and we can make everybody comfortable so that we can vote on this and get it done.
So Scott or Rob?
I'm going to talk to Rob just to say, whoever he has that's, fluent enough on the pumps that are out there can accompany you and go out on a tour.
There's really only 8 verifications left, so that's a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, are there situations where the town has an easement that benefits more than one house, and therefore we can't release it because it might make the second house that might be connected to it from the first house and have a...
I think Rob's letter regarding the release kind of addresses that. We had talked about that before. There are certain properties that granted access rights along the private ways. And typically it's the last person on the street. So if we relinquish all rights to that last person, then we have no rights in the roadway theoretically, but you still probably would. But in any case, when we go through the easements, if there is language, and there should be specific language regarding access through the ways, the private ways, just have to tailor that release to not reflect the release of the access rights.
So it would be something like the release would be as to the easement, on the private, on the residential lot, but not releasing an easement through the private way, or we'll see how the easement was granted and draft language. And I gather that's only a couple. Is that right, Dan?
Well, it's probably 10 or 15 at least.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A lot of private ways.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right, so we all set
yes.
with that?
Yep.
John, you good? Okay.
Yep.
Pardon me 1 second here. Okay, so next is regional sewer. I think we can sort of dovetail this into some of the work that Mr. Beck has done on the white paper, and I send my compliments to him over the airwaves here. Nicely done. My only comments to them is that there might be a couple of other things we want to add in as addendum to that, but that certainly will address some of the regional sewer, and I think particularly good idea asking Chris Senior to set up a session with Situate. And that's something, Lisa, I'd like you to do. For our next meeting, can you invite Chris to come so we can talk about this and maybe talk about another subjects at the same time?
Sure.
Anyone else have any comments on regional?
Well, it's indirect, but I reviewed a lot of stuff to put this relatively short paper with a lot of appendices. And Lisa is going to have, I just sent it to her this morning, is going to have some serious compilation work to do to get the appendices updated in some cases and reproduced. Some of the Woodard and Curran work, for example, with regard to capital expenditures, and our preventive maintenance program is in multicolors.
So I think, John, not to interrupt, but I will.
Yeah.
I did talk to Rob yesterday. He is going to update that capital planning list for us. And he
Yeah.
said, give him a couple of days. So,
Yeah. No, that's good. I know it will take a little bit of time to get it up to date. So that's one thing. The second thing was one of the documents I looked at was the Master Planning Implementation Committee Working Group notes from a meeting with Woodard and Curran on June 17th this summer. And that document has a number of errors, in my view, not the least of which is that Dan Coughlin is a Woodard and Curran consultant to the Cohasset Sewer Commission, which was news to me.
And to Dan.
And it says he was not at the regional sewer discussions early on, which my recollection is that he was. It also states at some point the sewer commission withdrew permission for him to participate in regional sewer discussions. What we said was that we were not going to be spending ratepayers' money for the regional sewer discussion efforts that we had previously covered under Dan's consultancy, not from Woodard and Curran, but from Coughlin Environmental. So that was one thing. There are a number of other comments in that document that I presume we can address later on and that I didn't get to in the select board document I just put together over the last couple of weeks. So,
John, who wrote that thing from the planning committee?
well, I think it came from, I'm not sure.
Okay.
It came as an attachment to an email. I can go back and look that up.
Yeah, can you send it to me? I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember anything about hearing about a meeting with the planning board. So if you could send it to me or
Well, I certainly will.
Okay.
I'll look it back up, but it was a meeting with Katie Dugan and Rosemary Blackhear from Woodard and Curran. But it was summarized by, I think, the planning person who works for our town manager. I'll chase it down and make sure that it gets distributed to everybody.
Okay, all right. So I guess just with going back to close the door on regional sewer, I think that I think we'll, just by getting Chris to make a contact to Situate to see what we can, at least open the door and see what exactly do they want, what do we want, and all those good things.
Yeah, and at the same time, it has been suggested that we reinitiate contact with Hull to see if their views on renegotiating our current intermunicipal agreement have changed.
Well, from the town manager's last have a message back to us. I think it was very strongly said that he's not going to do that. So
he's not going to talk to Hull anymore.
Well, no, the Hull town manager does not want to renegotiate.
Oh yeah,
the rates are the rates are the rates. So,
but things may change. Who knows?
Yeah.
And the question has been raised by one of the select board that we need to try harder. The town needs to try harder in that regard. I don't think that's our responsibility. I think that's the town manager's job.
Yep, I do. I agree.
With regard to the so-called white paper, I would greatly appreciate any comments that the commissioners have with respect to that document. And so that we can have it in a final form for perhaps a vote at our next meeting.
No, okay, so do we need to vote on that, or can we, if we all agree to the content, can we just submit it to, the select board? I mean, we really don't have to, it's more of an information package to them than anything else, isn't it?
It is. But it should be clear that it's not just me, it's everybody speaking.
Well, if they don't like it, it's you only. If they like it, it's us.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no,
Bill, is there a bus coming down the street you want to throw John under? Is that?
yeah, really.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, yeah, so we can do that. I mean, it doesn't matter. But maybe, I don't know, do you think it would be reasonable for us to say, because I know they're going to ask me while I'm down there what's going on. Would it be reasonable to say we could have something to them by the end of next week? Like have everything done, Lisa, like all the documents put together?
I haven't even really looked
Okay,
at what the whole thing is.
okay. So why don't we just say, I'll just tell them,
Right?
we'll give them an update next week as to what's going on.
Yeah, an update would be appropriate because some of these documents are, they're rather
They're large, yeah.
thick reports.
Yeah.
Like that. And there are a number of those that people have put together, the GHD study.
Yep.
All these things are going to take quite a compilation effort. And then the question is, how many copies do we want to make available?
Well, see, it's okay. So to that end, what I was thinking is, once we put all these things together and have a clear titles, like so it's attachment 1, but it tells them specifically what the document is.
Yes.
We put them on some sort of a file sharing system on the town and say you can go here and look at the sewer files as they apply to the white paper, and we don't have to print them.
Sounds like a good idea.
So, and that way, yeah. So, and it would also, I think, save Lisa a ton of time, collating and all this stuff. The only one, I don't know if it's attached, John, but the one that I would suggest is attached is
It
is the PowerPoint presentation on sewer going back years and what have you that Brian did as a introduction. Remember when we had our first meeting with the board?
Yes.
And Brian did a presentation on sewer. I don't know whether that got out to us or not, but I think it should be included with this package as sort of a,
That I didn't see. I do have a copy that Lisa gave me of the February 2016 GHD plan.
yeah,
Good,
plan for
that
study.
was
Yeah, yeah,
a
that's the
plan.
one we
We're
do
not
need.
Talking about that.
Yep. No, I'm not. So this, the first time we had a meeting with the board, Brian put together a PowerPoint presentation of maybe 15 slides that showed progression of North Situate, North Cohasset, Little Harbor, all of that stuff. And I'm sure he borrowed from others. But it's a nicely it's a nice introduction to the town sewer program.
Sure. I have not seen that. That was when I was on leave.
Okay. Yeah, maybe Lisa, you can ask for that and then from Brian and send it to John.
Sure.
All right.
Yep, will do.
I think that John's letter really almost has to be confined to the questions that were raised at the selectmen's meeting for which they want answers, rather than a master plan for the sewer going forward. Now, I've read through it once, and I'm not saying that that's the way I interpreted it, but so I think that it's almost still going to be a draft to see whether or not it answers all of the questions that the select people have, or the new questions that they're going to raise as a result of reading it.
Right. I think there will be new questions. Absolutely. But that's probably part of the reason they want to do it anyway, because they don't know, some of them don't know what they don't know, and they want to, get up to speed, and then they'll have questions after that, which we can just amend it. It could be a very live document that just gets added to
Sure.
People ask questions and then we answer them and then we post it on again, some file share. So if people want to read it, they can read it.
Right, because once we give it to the selectmen, it's gonna go everywhere.
Sure.
Certainly, the planning group is gonna listen to it, and everybody else, thinking that this, we're discussing what the facts are rather than this is what our position is.
Yes, exactly.
That the board is not looking to do no more sewering, not looking to do different things. It's really a case of, this is where we are today, and so moving forward.
Maybe, John, to Wayne's point, maybe there's a one line preamble saying, this is basically, an opinion of the status right now, and it's not necessarily that we are for or against or any of that sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, I only read it once, so when I go the second time, I'll have a better idea of,
Good.
to make it
Well,
easy.
the intent was to focus it on issues that had been raised in our previous discussion. Yeah.
Right, and yeah, I read it well. The ABCDs and stuff like that, as I was going down, it almost looked like I was sort of hopscotching or something like that, whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but good.
All right. If we go to other business, if we can go there right now, the only question I have, or actually a question was posed to me, a couple of folks have, as to, what is going on at the Stop and Shop, CJC, with all the mountains of earth there and piping being delivered and all sorts of other stuff. And one question that was posed to me by, I won't say who, it looks as though that there's going to be, they're planning for a connection without any kind of approval. And it sort of goes to your point, Wayne, as to what the heck is going on. Now, it's truly none of our business. If he just wants to move earth around and spend his money doing that, that's fine. But
Well, the sad thing is he's moving a lot of clay with some stones crushed into it. And it's sort of sad because that's not something you necessarily want for a leaching field and to use to raise the parking lot. And so I guess he's probably not putting in a septic system.
You
And
can't put in a septic system.
I thought the state said no to him.
well, how do you build a building without having sewer connection then?
They gave him two choices, either connect to the town sewer or create your own treatment plant with groundwater discharge.
Okay,
That's not a septic system.
right.
Well,
Yeah.
that's probably pretty pricey, though, I would think.
Well, I think
Well,
the groundwater discharge into clay isn't going to help too much.
no.
Disposal system still has to be designed pretty appropriately.
So,
What was that, Wayne? Dan?
The disposal area for a treatment plant still has to be designed very closely to what you do with Title V.
And they would have to come to us and or the state, right, for approval?
For groundwater discharge, they go straight to the state.
Okay.
okay.
And Rod, you've heard nothing, right?
That's correct.
So, I mean, he's never even applied for a connection.
Right. Right. Well, let's just let him dig as much as he wants. I don't know. I mean, there's nothing we can do about it.
Until he applies for a connection.
Right.
So,
If he applies for a connection.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. Nobody's heard anything about the state grant. I've heard nothing about it.
Lisa, do you know when the state?
I'm sorry, I was distracted. Somebody came in and was asking me a question. I'm sorry. What was that?
The question was the state grant that the town has applied for to run a sewer pipe up 3A to Sawyer Street and build sidewalks and so forth. You heard anything about that?
I have not. I have not received an update at all.
Do you have any idea when?
The last meeting, I think Brian had mentioned, let's see, look at the meeting minutes here. I'll find out. I can't, for some reason, I can't find it.
Maybe Bill can get an update after this meeting from some of the people that might know.
I'll ask Brian. That's a good point.
Well,
Yeah.
I have a call with Chris Senior on another matter today. I could ask if you want me to.
Sure, why not? Yeah.
Will do. I will let you all know.
Good.
Okay.
For other business also, I have 150 Beach Street, and I have Paul Marabito going to allow him to talk. So 150 Beach Street is building a structure in the front of their property. And they have a 1-bedroom, 1-bath going in there. And so I had mentioned when I got the application, I had mentioned to Mrs. Camera that she was going to, that she may have to pay the quarter EDU because it's a separate structure. So I have Paul on the line right now. Paul, can you hear us?
Yeah, and there's somebody else on the line too, Lisa. I don't know who that is.
That would be Brian.
Oh,
Yeah, Lisa, I think you unmuted me rather than the resident.
So Paul is, let me ask him to unmute, and that was the disruption earlier. Paul, can you hear us? Paul, if you can unmute yourself.
yeah, he's not listed as an attendee anymore. So I wonder if he fell off.
Right, I just promoted him to panelist.
Oh, okay.
So Paul is the, he's the engineer for that project. So he had mentioned previously that he had, they have plans from the septic system that the McNamara's had on their property, and the septic system was designed for 5 bedrooms. However, when they redid their house, they made it into a 3-bedroom home, and they connected to sewer with 3 bedrooms. And so that was the thing in question, whether or not they would have to pay the quarter EDU. And I did speak with Wayne about it, and I think that we agreed that it's a new structure, so it would need to have a quarter EDU. The other part of it is that Brian did review the application, and I sent you his notes on there. So that's the other part of the other business.
I mean, as far as, I haven't looked at the stuff from Brian, but I mean, it sounds reasonable that the quarter EDU for, a new structure is, for a bathroom and a bedroom.
Yeah, and regardless of whether or not they had 5 bedrooms on septic, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
Because there's 2 different things going on.
I was using the precedent that right down the street from 150, I think Veraki's owned a cottage that was up right on the water there, right at the causeway. And he wanted to build a guest house across the driveway in a separate building. And this was what we did at that point in time. And at that point in time, it was for half an EDU. So that's why I was thinking, I don't want to cause additional expense or anything like that for anybody, but That was the thinking. And I guess the other thought is, what if it should be subdivided at some time in the future as a separate lot? You know, what happens there? So that there's sort of has to be a history of it.
Right.
1 bedroom, 1 bath, 1 quarter EDU. Next subject.
Yeah, really.
Okay, we would need to talk about capital.
Yep.
For FY '22, and we have Dawn on the line as well. I had forwarded you the
The
report
sheet. Yeah.
you had asked for. I think those were the reports that you had asked for. Those came from Dawn. And that's it.
Well, one of the other things I want to talk to Rob about is his ideas of what we need, for the plant in the next physical year, and then get his revised capital list together so we can then fill it out. We may want to have a session because I think they want the capital request by Monday. Is that correct? Is that kind of the drop dead date?
It was kind of last week, but she said this week, Friday will be the deadline.
We're not ready.
Yeah. Probably, yeah, let me see what I can get this list from Rod, if he can do it today, Rob, if he can do it today, or even tomorrow, perhaps we could have a quick session on Friday morning, and then just agree to what we're going to use, and then we can just fill out the papers after that. Is that reasonable?
I have a kind of a fundamental question. Why, since the sewer commission is responsible for the sewer enterprise fund, do we even interact with the capital budget committee, since none of that money comes out of town funds? It all comes from our users and the enterprise fund for which we're responsible. And why in the world do we jump through a hoop in October of the year when the numbers involved don't go into our budget until Springtown meeting? This is all just unnecessary at this point in time. We got a lot of other stuff on our plate.
I mean, I could speak to that, I guess. Fundamentally, capital budget, although the funding doesn't come from their capital or the capital stabilization fund, there's still a review committee, at least for enterprise funds. And as you go through the town meeting,
Is that written into the bylaws?
I'd have to look at the bylaws, John.
No, I just would like to know, because it's a redundant bureaucratic exercise that doesn't have any value whatsoever in October of 2020 for a 2000.
Well, it really does, though. I mean, we need to understand, not even for them. I mean, the town, the finance director, the town manager, we need to understand where you guys are coming from. This is us asking for this, so we can start to put together a
We're not ready.
comprehensive plan.
And I'm sure as hell not ready to vote on anything having to do with capital budget, since we don't have it updated yet.
Well, I guess we'll just have to know you guys will be the delinquents, and that's fine. And we'll get it when we get it, and we'll go from there. I mean, I'm not gonna argue with you
Well,
about it.
I'm gonna review the bylaws and see what's really required and what's not, because it seems to me like this is an exercise in futility at this point in the game. And it also seems like it's not adding anything of value to anybody to have the capital budget committee review an enterprise fund responsibility by the sewer commission. So you'll be hearing more on that score.
That's great. Love to.
Good.
I mean, it's not just for them, John. Just keep that in mind. I mean, this is,
Yeah, it is because.
Enterprise is part of the town.
We
We're
will explain
responsible for the
fully
town
what our
finance.
we will explain fully what our capital budget requirements are from our perspective. And it will be included in our budget, and the town will vote on our budget as a whole. And we will have done our due diligence and review. If it turns out the capital budget committee needs to go through that bureaucratic exercise one more time, then I guess I don't have anything further to say on the subject, but I'm just a little irritated that we're getting these demands made on us at a time when there are a lot of other things of far more relevance and importance going on in this town than having the capital budget committee review our capital budget needs. End of comment. Sorry, I took up your time.
Me too. All right.
Well,
that's all.
before you go, Dawn, though, I just wanted to bring it back to the grinder pump funds that the sewer commission had asked for those reports. And I'm just going to go back to those reports that I had forwarded to you from Dawn. And were those the reports that you were requesting, or did you need something else that I missed? I'm asking the sewer commission.
I haven't had a chance to look at all that stuff yet, to be quite honest.
All it was a report year-to-date for grinder pump revenue this year. So I don't really know what that is gonna give you in your overall plan to get out of the grinder pumps and releasing them, but that information has been provided.
Okay.
Well, until we figure out how many grinder pumps we're going to be replacing, we don't know the answer to that question.
Can I, just for my understanding, so if we had, just say, I've heard a couple different numbers of how many grinder pumps are left to be replaced. Is it being considered that we continue charging this quarterly fee to all people that have a town-owned grinder pump until those 8 or 10 or 20 are installed?
That fee will be charged in our current planning until December 31st, at which time we plan at this stage of the game to end the fee.
Okay, so it's not, okay. Because at first, I think we initially thought it was first quarter of fiscal 21. Now we'll end it second quarter. So we already billed one full quarter for grinder pump maintenance fees for FY 21. My understanding was that we were gonna stop after Q1.
No,
So we budget a revenue and an offsetting expense for one quarter's worth.
Q2.
So we'll get more revenue above budget, but if we only budgeted 48,000 to offset that revenue because we had that expense, I'd be interested to find out what the cost of replacing the 8, 10, 20 grinder pumps are, and then the potential maintenance and replacement of any broken ones from now until the end of December. Just because we'll have to factor that into our budget and see where we are expense-wise.
The cost for the individual grinder replacements is about $5,500. It might be a little escalator on material costs, maybe up to $6,000.
Okay,
If you had 6 units, which is pretty much looks like we have at least 6 units, we're talking about $36,000.
okay.
But there's also-
About 8,500. So we'd be in line if there was only 6, we'd be in okay shape expense-wise, at least for what we budgeted.
The other thing to consider, though, too, from what I understand from Rosano Davis, is that it depends on the difficulty of getting to the existing grinder pump on those 6. There may be some cost adders. Just putting it out there.
Well, we had a discussion with Brenda the last meeting, right? So,
Right.
and we were trying to do the timing, and it looked as though the best solution would be to have it on the next billing, which would be, we were trying to connect a calendar year with the timing of the bills going out. So the person might not get the bill until January or sometime, but it would be through, it would be on our books through the second quarter, right?
Yes,
So, and then that would be it. And I think you said, Dawn, that you've got it projected for the first quarter only.
Right.
So, and that, so during the next billing, do we take it off? In other words, take it off for the January bill that's going out
no,
for the third quarter.
no, we need the money through December 31st.
But so the next billing is 11/1. Correct?
11/1 is already,
8/1, 11/1, 2/1. Pretty sure that's the cycle we're on.
I don't know, but the
I know.
bill going out now is supposed to have the charge in it. If it's November 1st, then it has the charge in it.
Okay.
And then and our thought was that may have to be the next bill, but if that's it, that would be the end of September. So it really is it'll be a second quarter then, right?
Right. So that's our second quarter billing would be November 1st. You'd commit the bills at that time. I mean, I don't know what again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what the rules are of timing of releasing folks, but I would think that you'd be able to release them at any time as long as all of our obligations to replace those grinder pumps are done.
So the notes that I have from the last meeting from Brenda was the February billing will go out with the grinder pump fee on it. And that would have been the second quarter. I think that's for central billing though.
Yeah.
Central and North Cohasset billing are two separate times.
No, the date it goes out, yes, but it covers the same time period.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Hey, guys, I'm gonna have to drop off because I gotta walk down to the plant.
Enjoy your tour.
I'm sorry?
I said, enjoy your tour.
I always do. I always do.
Just FYI to everybody, I did look up the registry fee. They changed them at the end of last year. It's about $106 for an easement or easement release.
$106 per easement.
Wow.
Well,
Who's going to pay for that?
the people that are having their easements reduced.
Yeah, I was gonna say we bill them. Why not?
So that may be where, I mean, we didn't plan on, how many do you, Rob, how many do we have? You said 100 and,
Well, I had just gotten copies of 100, but Dan, I mean, the number is
Yeah.
it 350 or something?
Yeah, it's pretty close to that as far as the number of town-owned grinder pumps. Some of them may not have easements, but you're still talking close to 300, I would think. But, you know, the question is, these were all, you know, given to the town for recording. What if they weren't recorded? They still exist? We still have to release them?
No, the release is effective when it's released. The recording is for future generations.
Okay, so if it's not, they don't have an existing easement recorded on their deed, all you have to do is sign it. You don't have to necessarily record it.
That's correct.
All right, see you guys.
Yep.
Hi, Bill.
that will absolutely come up with any future real estate deal in someone doing a title search to say there is an easement and the person selling it who has the release may or may not have that release in their possession at that point in time. But I don't know.
It may not if it's not recorded with the deed though, Wayne.
If it is,
Actually, my conversation with Chris, or I'm sorry, I've got a conversation where their Title V payments and a recorded obligation that was to have been paid when properties were transferred. Betterments were made and people were paying in installments. And I believe we've got 6 cases where it wasn't picked up when the property was transferred. And so we continue to build the new owner, even though the seller should have paid them. So, so yes, it absolutely should have been, but not necessarily.
Okay.
Yes, John is smiling. Yeah, that's the way it happened.
well,
Oh, well. So,
2 things to do, make a decision on the capital budget thing.
well, we'll get a revision from Woodard and Curran of our previous list. That is fairly complete. The only question is updating it as to where we stand right now. And then we'll have some a basis for going forward on that, which should be ready to go by our next meeting, I would think.
right. So the question, yeah,
So our chairman has departed. We're down to 2 members. Is there any more business?
well, I think, don't we need an answer on the grinder pump charges? Or we see what happens.
Yeah, we got to review that. Maybe we'll be in a better position to do so at our next meeting.
Okay, on November 5th, so.
Yeah.
And perhaps we could have our capital plan in a better position for that meeting too.
I do have an answer for you on when we're expecting to hear back from the Mass Works grant. It would be the first week of November is the note I have. We should hear back.
Okay. Any more business?
I don't have anything.
Lisa gave a date on the, you cut out. I didn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry, the Mass Works grant. We should be hearing about that from around November, the first week of November.
Okay. Perhaps that'll be a cause for celebration on at our next meeting, or otherwise. I move we adjourn.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Good
Thank
day.
you. Have a good day.
I know.